Hello. Let's wait for some time. I don't see anyone has joined. Hi, Rohi. I see Sarangs is joining in as well.
Hello.
Hello. Okay. Let's just wait for 1 minute and then we can give it a start. Yeah. Rahul is joining as well. Okay. I think let's give it a start. Let me just share my screen. Fine. I hope you all can see my screen. Let's start from where we had left off yesterday. Let's see if we are able to complete this and then we will continue with the next logical chapter that we need to finish. So we'll start with the rest of the operations that we can do on the NumPy array. We have looked into some mathematical operations like addition and subtraction and multiplication. We have also looked into some logical and conditional operations. Okay, let's see how we can proceed further, what all actions are there other than these. So there is one more common, although not a very frequently used option, which is there in NumPy. For this, we do have a different library, and we will usually not be representing our entire data set in form of a NumPy array, other than certain conditions. In those certain conditions, we may not almost always use these kind of statistical functions, but it's good to know that this kind of functions are available. Okay, so what these four lines are going to signify to us is that let's say we have two arrays, x and y. In this case, if I would like to find out what is the mean, median kind of things, which are like the basic descriptive statistics of any set of numbers, that we can do using functions which are already available. Okay, I will need to find out. I've never used mode function with NumPy, so I'm not sure if mode is available with NumPy or not. But there are other ways to find out mode as well, right? So we can we will anyways be using statistical functions more with Pandas library, which I wanted to start as of today. Provided we can finish this on time, we are going to start with that. So as of now, here I have two arrays, x and y, and I would like to find the mean of x. So as of course statistically mean means the mathematical average. So this clearly signifies that I sum up all the values 1, 2, 3, and 1, and then I divide it by 4, right? So 7 divided by 4 is equal to 1.75. So I can also uh, do this 7 divided by 4. Yeah, so the answer is overridden. Let me just do this here. So it's a very simple kind of a calculation. Okay, now if I do the same thing with y, okay, then what is going to happen is y dot mean is going to be something like this. It is 3. Okay, why is it 3? Is because it has summed up everything. So I can take, there are 6 items. So I'm going to take the sum of all items, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 5 plus 6 plus 1. Okay. So as you can see, irrespective of it is a 1D array, which is the case with X, or a multidimensional array, which is the case with Y, dot mean is simply going to take uh, all of the items which are there and divide by the number of items. Okay, so that's all is the mean. Now, is there any other way to do this? Okay, let's see if we can pass on this kind of a function in there. The answer is yes. Yeah, so we can have functions like this, np dot mean, and sorry, this should be dot np dot mean, and then in the brackets we can pass the array for which we would like to find out the mean, in which case it's going to print the mean, right? So one way to print the mean is that I use the array name dot mean, and the other way is numpy dot mean, and then I pass the array name. Okay, there is not much difference between these two. We will be sparingly using each and every one of them. Similarly, you can find the median. So median for x is going to be 1.5. I'm not sure if you're already aware how to calculate a median, but we will be looking into how to calculate a median. Okay, so if there are odd number of items, then it is actually a sum of the middle two items, which in this case is 2 and 3, and then it is actually divided. So in that way median is found, but then you have to order these items as well. So the middle items in this case is not going to be 2 and 3, right? So median is calculated by means of the fact that we have 1, 2, 3, and 1, right? So your input was 1, 2, 3, and 1. Okay, so this must be converted into a list called 1, 1, 2, 3. Why? Because I've now ordered all the elements which is there in the array. Post which, what I need to do, I need to find out the mean. Sorry, I need to find out the median. In this case, I see how many number of elements are there. Number of elements is equal to 4. Is this an even number? The answer is yes. If this is an even number, I take the middle two elements, which in this case is 1 comma 2. So I take 1 plus 2, and then I divide these two numbers sum by 2. Right, so this is equal to 3 divided by 2 or equal to 1.5. So this is how a median is calculated. You take a set of numbers, then you order the numbers in the ascending order. You figure out if this is an odd series or an even series. Had it been the case, let's take an example, although we will be covering statistics in far more depth than this. So let's say I have 4 over here. Okay, so in this case, the ordered list will also have 4. In this case, how many items do I have? I have 5 items. In this case, what I'm going to do, I'm going to selectively continue crossing one item from each side. So cross one from start, cross one from end. It leaves us with 1, 2, 3. Cross one from start, cross one from end. Then it leaves us with the middle number. So median is basically the technical or mathematical middle number of a list of numbers. So in this case, it was a simple answer. If I had even number of items, I will take the two middle values divided by 2. If I have odd number of items, then it is very easy to calculate the middle. Okay, so in this way, median is calculated. In the same way, I can also have defined the axis. Now, this is something which is a bit complicated. Let's not look into this right now. We will not really be using this when it comes to uh, the mathematical functions that we are going to do, or the statistics that we are going to use. So maybe you can ignore this as of now. Out of your interest, maybe you can look into the NumPy documentation and try to find out what that axis is doing. But almost always we are not going to use that. Okay, so in any statistical calculations, we're not going to use that. I just wanted to present it over here so that you have some idea that this kind of calculation can be done, where a median, usually you see a median should always result into single value, right? Whether that is a floating point or an integer is going to depend on what operations I'm going to do. Because I had even number of items over here, I had to divide 1 plus 2 divided by 2. So that is why it resulted into float. In this case, it resulted into an int. So it is the output of a median that is expected is a single number. In this case, it is not a single number. In this case, it is a list of two numbers. So we can find out why this is a list of two numbers, but this will not be frequently used. So this is just for the reference that we do have such kind of options there as well. Now, the last one that we will use is something like this. So this is the standard deviation. So STD refers to the standard deviation. Standard deviation basically identifies the by scale value, or a very easy definition will be the by scale value of the variation which is there in the data. Okay, what I mean by that is usually in the data set, in this case I have x. So in x I have four values, 1, 2, 3 and 1. So what is the kind of variation which is covered by each and every value? Okay, this is not to say what is the variation between the minimum value and the maximum value. What is the variation or the range of the numbers on the scale which is covered by these four numbers, which is part of this array, which is x. Okay, so if I print the array over x, which is x over here, I'll be able to see that there are such items here. Okay, so the standard deviation of 1, 2, 3 and 1 is going to be 0.83, and how this is calculated is something we are going to look into in the statistics class. But overall, the intuition behind this is that I am trying to find out the in scale variance, okay, or in class variance of the set of numbers which I have. Now why I am uh, having some push on the statement called in class is that this 0.82 is of the same scale as the numbers which you have over here. Example, if this list is that of the age of my four, let's say I have four others, and they each one of them have a kid, and this is the age of their kids. Okay, so I'm taking a standard deviation of the ages of the kids of my cousins. So this output over here is also in the same scale. Had it been the case, I would have calculated the variance. The variance is never in the scale of number, right? When we do the calculations related to statistics, we'll come to know why this is the case. Okay. Now, other than the fact that if I have some kind of set of values, on top of that I can do mathematical operations. I already know that I've created a lot of arrays where I've manually entered the values, and then I've done a lot of things. Now what happens if I have some data in some kind of text file? Example given, I have a text file called populations.txt. I have a text file here where I have four fields. Okay, these are separated by tab. This hyphen star is kind of a representation of the IPython notebook only. This represents tab. Okay, what we have over here is, let's say, year, here, links, and the caret. So these are the kind of the populations. Okay, the data for the populations which I have over here. And the fact that I'm using E is that E or epsilon is used in case the number is quite small. Okay, so in this way, if I have a data which is represented, then I can also load that data using the npload.txt file, or the function. The file can be loaded, and then I will be able to read the data in this way in form of an array. Okay, so the moment I read that data, as you can see, irrespective of the fact that I had mentioned epsilon, okay, to mention the scale of the number or the granularity of the number, whether small or high, it has already converted all the numbers by default into floating point, right? I can also specify in what kind of way it is going to represent the numbers, right? Now I have four columns over here. The first one is year, second one is here, third one is links, and the fourth one is caret. So I would like to divide, or I would like to get each and every of these values into a single array or a one-dimensional array, because each and every of these columns are essentially a 1D array. If I would like to do that, a very easy trick in Python is that I write the names of the variables where I would like to have the data, and then I just call data.t. This data.t is, let's say I'm going to comment these two lines as of now, and if I print the data.t over here, it is simply going to divide the entire data into 4 one-dimensional arrays. Each one-dimensional array becomes one of the columns in the data. Example, if you had 4 columns, the data will be broken into 4 one-dimensional columns. Okay, you can also check the shape of this. You can also check the shape of this. Sorry, I don't think we can do the shape because yes, of course, yes. No, we cannot do because this is returning a tuple and not an yes, of course, yes. Okay. Okay, so it has 4 and then it has 21 values. So if I do a dot shape, I am able to see the shape because there are 21 rows actually and there are 4 columns. So now the 4 columns are actually converted into 4 rows, and then I have 21 columns in place. So why I'm doing this is because now I can have 4 one-dimensional arrays in place. Okay, so that is exactly what I'm doing over here, and then I can start printing each and every one-dimensional array. This is like if you want to break a data set consisting only of numbers into NumPy, and then you would like to do some operations on top of that, which we are going to usually do when we are going to do data analysis. So that's how these kind of things are going to be called or used. Okay, now the only 3 common things that we usually do when we have taken the data in form of an array is that, let's say I would like to take the population's data, and then I would like to calculate the mean or the median or the mode. So what I'm going to do, first of all, let's hash out these two and try to understand what this is. So colon 1 colon. Okay, so how is this represented? This is an NumPy array. As we know, the first item before the comma is going to be the row. The second item after the comma is going to be a 1, is going to be the column. I'm sorry. So in case of row, I have specified colon. Okay, means you have to take all the rows, and then in case of the columns, I have actually specified 1 colon, right? So this means that exclude the first one. So start with the first and go to the last. So the index of first is going to be 0. Had it been the case, I would have put 0 over here. It's going to print everything. If I would have done this, it is going to print everything. Okay, what happens if I remove the colon over here? It's going to give me an error. So if you are using slicing, you need to mention something over here, at least a colon. A colon represents that you have everything. Else you need to remove this entire part. If you remove this entire part, it will be able to print you everything, right? But if you have starting braces and ending braces, you need to specify the indexes which you want. In this case, I do not want the year. I just want the numbers. And that is the reason why I'm starting from index 1 and going until how many number of columns there might be, which is resulting into 3 columns and 21 rows of data. And this is how it is. Okay, so if I do a shape on top of this, I can clearly see there are 21 rows and there are 3 columns. Okay, now what I'm going to do, let me put this into a variable known as populations. If I look at the populations variable now, as of course, as we have already seen over here, these are the populations of each and every column which I had. Now I want to calculate the standard deviation. So same statistical functions I can apply on top of a data set that I've already loaded. Okay, so standard deviation of this column is going to be this. The standard deviation of this column is going to be this. Standard deviation of this column is going to be this. Okay, the same thing applies if I would like to find, let's say, populations dot mean. Okay, so if I'm going to find the mean, it is going to give me the mean of all the numbers. Okay, this does not mean anything because all the numbers refer to different areas. So maybe we can use this over here as well, and then we will be able to find the mean per axis. Okay, so as you can see, if you have multi-dimensional kind of sets, if you have not already broken them over into different parts, example given, this is the column for here, so I can simply take hairs dot mean. Okay, and it is going to enter a number which is 34080, and if I hide this and I run this, then I can clearly see that the first output is also the same. So clearly, if I have already divided the numbers into 1D arrays per column, then I can do all the statistical operations like mean, median, mode, and standard deviation. Not the mode, because we cannot, or we may not have a direct function to do the mode on each and every column, or we can do it on the entire array per column. Okay. The second thing, or another year that we usually see is that if I would like to find out what is the maximum value from this list, maybe after a quick scan, I will be able to find out what is the maximum value. Example given in the first column representing here, so I can clearly see this is the maximum value. In the second column, maybe I can clearly see this is the maximum value. Okay, in the third column, this is quite close number, so I'm not really sure which one is going to be the max. Maybe this one is going to be the max, 48,300. Okay, but it is really difficult to do it handheld, so we can use a function called argmax, and here I'm specifying x is equal to 1, right? So which is doing highest population per year, right? So this is what it is trying to calculate, and it is going to give me. Now if I do this as axis is equal to 0, then it is simply going to calculate the values per columns. Now you can see that this is not actually matching, right? And there is a reason why it does not match with the calculation that we have done, because it has taken it into a different scale. So I would like you to explore this function when it is used with arrays of multi-dimensional array. Okay, I'm not going to tell you the answer why this is like this and why the data type is integer, because it should ideally be the number over here, right? We are trying to find out the number here. Okay, but it is not the number. Maybe from yesterday's class you will be remembering that if I use argmax, it is not going to give me the max value, it's going to give me the index, right? So if I take per year index, then it is going to be something like this. So or if I am going to take per column argmax, but this is how it is going to be. So what I mean by that is that here in this case, it is actually giving me the indexes of the values, right? Now, we will go ahead with some other operations that NumPy can do, and this is a very interesting operation which NumPy can do, before which we would like to understand what is the concept of broadcasting. Now, broadcasting is something which is nothing but a technique. Okay, a technique is used inside NumPy implementation when we are going to do basic operations. Okay, so usually, as you can see over here on your screen, basic operations are almost always element wise. So each and every element is taken into consideration while you do the operation per element, right? Give me 1 minute. Okay, so after this, what we are doing is just a moment. Yeah. So for each and every basic operations that you can see over here, what we are essentially doing is we uh, are doing element by element operation. So whatever operations we have seen until now, until as of now, whatsoever operations we have already seen, there all the operations are done per element. Okay. Now, if the number of elements are going to be high, the time complexity or the space complexity will also increase. So there must be some interesting way which NumPy is going to implement so that it can handle this kind of a thing in a better way, right? So how does it handle this kind of a thing in a better way? Is by doing a technique which is known as broadcasting. Okay. Now this will only work, okay, ideal condition into arrays of the same size, but it is also possible to do operations of arrays on different sizes if that can be transformed into arrays that has the same size. Okay, so that's what we are essentially going to do over here. See, so what we are doing over here, a very simple thing which you can see on your screen using a diagram. You can study the diagram at a later stage as well in depth, but what we are trying to do that, let's say I have two arrays of same size. So I have 4 cross 3 plus 4 cross 3. 4 rows, 3 columns, 4 rows, 3 columns. I'm going to do an addition, right? So in this case, there will be a broadcasting easily applicable because the size of the elements are going to be the same. Okay. Now what essentially is this doing is just take a sum and then you do an element by element kind of an operation over here. So this part is actually a repeat. You can only look into this part. So this is where you see that the addition of these two does not need any special things. So if you simply supply numpy with arrays of the same size, it does not do anything over here. Let me just take a pen. So this is my input. Okay, so in this case I have two arrays which are exactly of the same size. This is passed on to numpy. Numpy is not going to do any transformations or any broadcasting or any changes in the sizes or anything like dummy value and so on. It's simply going to take the first array A and it is going to take the second array B as it is and do a sum, do an operation that we have already supplied. Why is that so? Is because the number of rows and number of columns is exactly matching for A and B. So A and B is of the same size, and hence if you come down, you get the result which is something like this. Okay, so you get a result which is A plus B because it is as simple as you just have to add each and every element 0 plus 0, 0 plus 1, and then 0 plus 2. So this is going to give you the first row. In the same way, it is going to go ahead with the second row, the third row, and the fourth row. Okay, the way it is going to do this fast is because there are efficient ways in which this is stored in the memory. So that is the reason why it is able to do that in a quicker way. How is it doing that? Let me just clear all the diagrams and come down. Yeah. So this is what it is exactly doing. Okay. How broadcasting is going to work is that internally you have given him an array A which is of size 4,3, okay, and another array which is of smaller size, right? So what it is going to do is that this is just a subset, huh? Don't take it otherwise that why am I supplying a small block like this. You cannot mathematically do an addition of this array and this array. So what this diagram specifies is that first of all it checks whether or not the number of rows which is there in A is matching that of number of rows in B or not. So this is the original structure of B. What it is essentially doing internally, and this is what is known as broadcasting, is that it is taking the first row from here, and then it is taking the first row from here. So it is using one of the arrays to be broadcasted, and then each and every element will be summed up, and then the result is going to be produced. In the same way, it is going to do the same kind of operations for the other array as well, where it is going to consider the number of columns, right? So why is this the case is because there must be some kind of a commonality here, right? So 4 cross 3 is exactly common with 4 cross 3. That is the reason why it is going to take a combination of these kind of things and it is going to result into something like this, right? So what is exactly happening here is, if you look at the math, what it is doing a 0 1 2 kind of a thing with this. It is not, it is adding 0 1 2 with 0 0 0, and that is going to produce a row like this. Then what it is doing for this column which is over here, it is taking the column and then it is taking the row, and then it is doing a sum. So 0 plus 0 is 0, right? And in this way it is going to add each and every of the elements, right? So here the element which will be considered will be only this, and then when it comes to this array, the element will be this. When it comes to this part of the array, the element which will be considered is going to be 2. So you add 2 with these 4 items, you are going to get this output, right? So this is how broadcasting internally works, that you take each and every element and then you can do the calculations. Why is this the case? Because if you are going to take all the elements and do the mathematics, then that is going to be a big issue, because the number of elements is going to be very big, right? So using this concept only, it is going to do these summations or the rest of the activities which is related to any mathematical operations, right? Now let's look into some other functions before we move on. So I'll just hide this. So what I am doing over here is I'm creating or I'm using, let's say I'm just going to hide this as well. So I'm using a function known as tile. Okay, tile, what it is going to do is that I'm going to specify, you can actually ignore this part right now, but you can concentrate on this. Okay, so tile, what it says is that I have an a range. Okay, so I have an np.arange function which is called, which is going to result me into an array. Okay, so the step of, or the distance between each and every element is going to be 10, and there will be elements between 0 and 40. Right, how is this 3 comma 1 to be read is that you have a spread of all the elements across the rows, right? So this is the max shape that it can take. So if this is the max shape of 3 cross 1, there will be 4 columns because I have divided 0 to 40 with an equal range of 10. In that case, I am going to have 4 items, 0, 10, 20, and 30. And I'm going to repeat that for 3 times. Okay, so repeat the distance which I have done over here using a range. So I have created a range of values between 0 and 40 with a distance of 10. And then I would like to repeat that 3 times. In that case, I'm going to create tiles. So this tile function is similar to the tiles which we apply in our houses as well, right? So each and every tile is exactly a mirror copy of the other. So that's exactly what it is doing. I'm specifying the number of times it is going to repeat that. Now, what happens if I'm going to change this to 2 as well? Okay, if I change the other value to 2 as well, then what it is going to do, it is going to repeat the same value n number of times. So because I have given 1 over here, or let's say I don't give anything, in that case it is just going to take a 1D array if I don't give anything. If I give comma 1, it is going to say, okay, I have to take this output and then I have to tile them 3 times. I take this output and I do it for, let's say, 13 times. It is going to repeat the value for 13 times. Okay, if I'm going to say this has to be 10, then it is going to repeat the value for 10 times. Okay, so this is how I can create a tiled array. Now, this will be essential when we are going to do some kind of math related to arrays where I need common elements or the elements of one row to repeat itself in a multiple number of rows. Okay. The next is this. Okay, now this is something that we may have already seen earlier. So I'm just trying to quickly recap if this applies. So B is an NP array of 0, 1, and 2. The output of B is 0, 1, and 2. If I do an A and B, it is going to give an error, and it is quite simple. It is going to give an error, irrespective of the fact that the number of columns over here matches the number of rows, right? Yesterday we saw cases where we were not able to, or we were able to do the multiplications because we had exactly same structure. So that is kind of a limitation. You can say that here number of rows matches with the number of rows, but it does not allow that kind of an operation here as well. It has to be on the of the same structure, right? Now I just missed a couple of things over here. Maybe I'll print that as well. So here what I am doing is a dot t I'm using. So what is a dot t? We have already used dot t over here. Dot t is something that we had already used when we were calculating the columns. Okay, when we were changing columns to variables, we have already used dot t. Now we can really understand the essence of dot t. Dot t essentially represents the transpose of a matrix. Okay, now what is the transpose of a matrix? I'll quickly go through this because we anyways don't have enough time. So a transpose of a matrix is something like this. Let's say I have a matrix called 1, 2, 3, and 4. Anyways, we will be revising these concepts when it comes to, let's say, the revision of the matrix algebra. So if A is equal to this, then I will say A of transpose given by A and a superscript T, where the values in each and every column will be converted to values as each and every row. So 1 and 3. Okay, these two are there in column 1, right? These will now be put into row number 1. So 1 goes here, 3 goes here, and then I have 2, then I have 4. So 2 comes here and 4 comes here, right? So this is what the output is. This is the transpose, and that is exactly what is happening. You see 0, 10, 20, 30, and here I have 0, 10, 20, 30. So each and every element by a row is now converted into each and every element by a column, right? Now, does that change the shape and structure? Yes. If I have a matrix which has square kind of a dimensions, let's say I have a matrix A where the dimensions are n comma m, and n where n is equal to m. So the number of rows is equal to number of columns. Then the dimensions or shape of this array is exactly equal to the shape of the transpose of that array. But in this case, I don't have an even number of shape. N is not equal to m. I have 3 rows and I have 4 columns. So 3 cross 4, if it is transposed, it is going to become 4 cross 3. Right? So if A was 3 cross 4, which is the case in our scenario, then A transpose will be 4 multiplied by 3. Right? So this is how things work here. So let me just clear the diagram and let me close this. So that's what the transpose function is. Even after the transpose function, if I'm going to take an array and then I'm going to do an A plus B, now it is going to say that yes, I can work. Why it does that work is because now I have the number of columns equal to the number of columns over here. Earlier A had 4 columns, okay, and 3 rows and 4 columns. Now I have transposed it, so it has 3 columns and 4 rows, and B also have 3 columns, right? It's a 1D array, but it has 3 columns. Now I can add, and how I'm going to add is that this is where broadcasting is going to come into place as well. You see, each and every number is added with each and every number. So for example, this is 0 will be added with 0, 10, 20, 30. Then there is 1 will be added with 0, 10, 20, 30. Then there will be 2 will be added with 0, 10, 20, 30, and then I'm going to get the output. It is exactly the same as this diagram which you saw over here. I'm adding 0 with this, right? Then I'm adding 1 with 0, 10, 20, 30. Then I'm adding 2 with 0, 10, 20, 30, and the final output is achieved here, right? In the same way, I can have representations of array which is like this. Let's say, let's take the shape, and now what I'm going to do is that before I use this function called np.newAccess, I'm going to print A, and I'm going to see what A actually means. Okay, so if I do a print now, so what is happening over here is, let me just print A over here as well. Yeah, so I have created A, which is a 1D array. 0 to 30 is the value because I have created it using a range. Then I'm doing colon np.newAccess. Now this adds a new axis and makes it a 2-dimensional array. Okay, now I have 2 dimensions. I have 1 column and I have 4 rows. So basically I was able to convert a 1D array where there were only 1 rows or only 1 dimension into a 2D array where now each and every element has gone into its own individual row, and there is 1 column in which all the data falls. Now if you look at the shape, this is 4 cross 1 because earlier I had 4 elements and now I have converted them into columns. Earlier the shape was only 4, right? So what happens with A now? So A is this, and I have already applied a function like this. So why didn't it convert that here? I have already created an array which is A, which is in this 1D kind of structure. Then I'm trying to use this new axis kind of a thing, and then I'm going to convert that like this, but it does not change. It does not change the value. So if I do an A plus B, I'm still able to do it. Why is this the case? Because this kind of an operation using np.newAccess is temporary. It is only temporary. It actually exists by the lifetime of that program. In this case, the lifetime of this program is only this cell. It is not going to exist after this cell. Right? So after this cell, this is not going to exist, right? I think that's all. That's all that we would need to see. I will leave the rest of the things with you because these are quite small. These are quite simple things. I'll leave these 2 items with you. For the rest of the array shape flattening kind of things, so array shape flattening is something we are going to look into the next class quickly. And then we are going to continue with the pandas. Okay, so that is going to complete the use of the NumPy array or the library, and then we are going to look into pandas as well. Okay, so meanwhile, I think we have 1.5 minutes left. Maybe if you have any queries, you can let me know. Okay, I will assume that there are no more questions, so maybe we can close the call, and we will see all of us, let's say tomorrow, same time. Thank you for joining. Good night.